Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest, he's the Palestinian Foreign Minister of 12 years, Riyad al-Maliki. Thank you for being with us here.
Thank you for having me.
You're in the French capital for the Paris Peace Forum that takes place.
That's right.
This week. So many topics to talk about. First of all, let's begin in your part of the world. Palestinian elections.
Yes.
Are they on, and are they on for next February?
We hope so. We hope so. You know, we have to really overcome different hurdles. The most important ones are, of course, that all factions will agree to hold elections, starting with the parliamentary and then presidential.
That's not done yet.
We heard good news, but we would like to see that on writing in order really to make it very official. And then, of course, we would like to see that, Israel, as an occupying power, will allow us to hold elections also in occupied East Jerusalem. This is really another obstacle. In the previous occasions where we had elections, Israel did allow us to have elections in East Jerusalem.
They allowed it under pressure from the United States.
Yes.
And since the United States is no longer applying pressure, that doesn't bode well, does it?
Well, we don't know. The whole issue is full of surprises. You might see the Americans, pressuring Israel for allowing us to have elections in East Jerusalem. Maybe not having a real government in Israel today, but a caretaker government might also help. We don't know. But obviously, we are not going to have elections, in Palestine without having elections in East Jerusalem. That's for sure.
That'll mean there'll be no elections in the rest of the Palestinian territories if there are no elections in East Jerusalem?
I can assure you that, absolutely. We are determined to have elections in Gaza Strip, in West Bank, including East Jerusalem. And we cannot tolerate to have elections without having elections in any of these parts, including in particular East Jerusalem.
It's been 14 years.
Yes, of course. We are happy to hold elections. The sooner the better. You mentioned February. We hope that we will fulfill that objective. The problem is Israel. I think all countries around the world, including the UN, have really commended us for preparing for having elections. We have asked every country, including the UN, including France, to help us with Israel in order for Israel to allow us to have elections in East Jerusalem.
Elections in East Jerusalem at this point in time, do you fear that critics might contend that, well, if you decide to put them off because you can't stage the poll in East Jerusalem, that it's a way of letting Fatah off the hook, since they perhaps won't fare so well in those elections?
No, well, nobody knows exactly how the elections will produce the type of results. No one could really predict that. Opinion polls are indicating that Fatah will win easily, but that's not really the issue. The issue is, are we serious about holding elections in occupied territories, including East Jerusalem? And if yes, then we expect the international community to help us
and are you
to overcome all obstacles, including Israel.
Are you as confident when it comes to staging that poll in Gaza as you are in the West Bank?
Of course, in all of the Palestinian occupied territory, no problem to that. Since we will deal with the occupied territory as one entity, and as a result, so there will be no problem, to differentiate between one part against vis-a-vis the other.
14 years since the last time Palestinians went to the polls. There's this sense, not just where you are, but throughout the Arab world, that right now people are sick of politics as old. We've seen the startling developments in places all the way from Algeria to Sudan, and most recently, what's going on in Beirut and Baghdad. Your thoughts about those leaderless movements? Do you support them?
We cannot intervene in the internal affairs of other Arab countries.
I'll put it differently. Do you understand why the people are out in the streets?
We observe, we see things, and we contemplate, what's happening, and we understand why things like that, is happening. We hope that, what people in each country are asking for will be achieved through peaceful means, and that all elements within that specific country will collaborate in order to see that such demands are being really met in the peaceful, democratic way possible.
And do you feel that there could be some kind of a knock-on effect, since the leadership of the Palestinian territories is aging? Mahmoud Abbas is 85, I believe.
Okay.
Is he the future?
Well, he is the future. Each and every Palestinian is the future. Our kids are the future. The Palestinian people is the future. I think,
Is he talking about passing on the baton at this point?
Well, look, he always have said repeatedly and publicly that he doesn't want really to run for office. That's for sure. Everybody knows that. Now, it depends, on Fatah movement itself. If Fatah will choose other candidate, or if Fatah will determine that, the only candidate is President Mahmoud Abbas.
Because right now,
how he's going to react to such request.
Because right now there are no clear successors. Is that a good or a bad thing, the fact that we don't see who is the next generation?
Well, I think, we have so many leaders within Fatah and so many leaders within the Palestinian people that always they can carry the torch, further. That's not really a concern, and that's not really a problem. But, it also will show that continuity is a positive element that one could really build on it. And President Mahmoud Abbas always has really encouraged young leaders to take full responsibility and to carry on.
You mentioned earlier the fact that right now you have this political gridlock in Israel, and you said you're not quite sure whether it's a good or a bad thing, the fact that they can't agree on a new government in Israel. We don't know whether or not they're going to be returning to the polls again. Is it a good or a bad thing?
Look, not having a government is not good. For Israel is not good for peace. In our region. Because, at the end of the day, with whom you need to talk with and with whom you want to really to sit with. That's really very important. Netanyahu has been, holding this caretaker government since last April. And there are no signs that this kind of crisis will end soon.
Would it be different under Gantz, as it would?
We never know. We don't know. We don't know. We never tried, Gantz before, as a politician. We tried him as a military, and always there is a big difference between being in the military and being, as a politician. But of course, we the Palestinians, we do believe that yes, there is a need for somebody else to take over the responsibilities from Netanyahu.
A need for somebody else. Riyad, al-Maliki, your thoughts on, we saw the Arab-Israeli vote rise, and according to pollsters, those who went to the polls, it wasn't so much about the issues pertaining to the future of Israelis and Palestinians, but more along bread and butter issues, housing, healthcare, crime. Those were the things that made Arabs want to vote in this election. Your thoughts on that rise in the vote of Arab Israelis?
Well, first of all, it's true. The Arab Israelis are suffering a lot. From discrimination. They are calling for equality in terms of rights and responsibilities, and that's really very important. There is the rate of crime, among the Arabs, in Israel is higher than anywhere else, and that's why this is something that they should really take care of. The issue of Israel-Palestine, the conflict peace, is not something that's really monopolized by the Arab Israelis. It should be across the board within Israel, and we didn't see this at all, in the last two elections. I think if there is a clear item that was really absent from the election campaign in Israel, it was the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Israeli-Palestinian peace process.
Arabs, Israelis themselves saying Look, we're sick of always talking about the two-state solution or the one-state solution. We just want to move on, get on with our daily lives.
Well, we didn't hear them talking about that specifically. I think, what you are referring to is, the rest of the Israeli Jews, more than, the Israeli Arabs. I think, the Israeli Jews are the ones who are really sick and tired of talking about this issue, because Netanyahu has made them believe that this is not really an immediate issue to be discussed.
Riyad al-Maliki, since Donald Trump's decision to move the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, your government's not been speaking to Washington.
That's right.
We were supposed to get this deal of the century from that was being led by the White House and most notably by Jared Kushner. That's on hold right now because of these impeachment proceedings. So we've talked about Palestinian politics still being on hold, Israeli politics right now on hold. U.S. politics are also to a certain degree on hold. What are your thoughts as we head towards those open impeachment hearings?
Well, also we follow what's happening in the United States of America. We were promised for the last 3 years, to hear and to see the details of the deal of the century. That never really happened. It seems that this trio, Kushner, Greenblatt, and Friedman, who are taking, full monopoly over this issue, they cannot really make their mind about when and how, to release the plan, if there is a plan in the first place. I think, talking about a plan in order really to prevent others, including, France, from presenting their different ideas about how to move the Israeli-Palestinian peace process forward.
And the fact that it's all on hold?
I think, everything's on hold. Yes, I think, the year 2020 is going to be election year in Israel, election year in Palestine, election year in the U.S., which means that, all our expectations regarding, the peace process will be on hold.
Riyad al-Maliki, I want to thank you so much for being with us here on France 24.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we want to thank you for joining us here in the France 24 interview.